I want you to picture your 401k for a second. Go ahead, pull up the balance, maybe in your head. Now ask yourself, if you needed $15,000 tomorrow, not someday, tomorrow, how fast could you actually get your hands on that money, penalty free, without anyone's permission but your own? If the honest answer is, I couldn't, or it would cost me, I want to introduce you to a concept that's going to reframe the way you think about a retirement account and what it's actually supposed to do for you. I'm Jared with Green Dot Wealth. If you've been following this series, you already know IBC isn't an investment, it's an order of operations. And you know Nash's core premise, you're always financing something. The question is, who controls it? Today we're building on both of those ideas with a concept that introduces the warehouse of wealth. The Warehouse of Wealth is a book that Nash also wrote about. Worth checking out. And we're going to hold that concept right up next to your 401k so you can clearly see the difference. Let's start with the word itself. Warehouse. A warehouse isn't where products go to disappear. It's where they're stored, ready to move the second they're needed, accessible, organized, under your control. That's the idea behind a warehouse of wealth. It's a place where your capital lives, growing, protected, liquid, so it's ready the moment an opportunity or need shows up. Not locked away, not tied to a calendar that someone else set, not waiting on permission. This is the foundation we talked about in the blueprint video. Before you invest, before you make a major purchase, before you take on debt. The warehouse is where that capital is staged and ready to deploy. Most people don't have anything like this. What they have instead is a collection of accounts that have their own rules, their own restrictions, and their own timelines that have nothing to do with your actual life. Now let's talk about the 401k, because I think most people have a fundamental misunderstanding of what it is. The 401k wasn't originally built to be the primary retirement vehicle for the American workforce. It came out of a provision in the tax code from the late 1970s and was initially used by a small number of executives as a way to defer income and taxes. It became the default retirement tool over time, largely because it was cheaper for companies to offer than a traditional pension, not because it was the best possible structure for everyday workers. Here's what it means practically. Your 401k comes with rules that have nothing to do with what's actually happening in your life. You generally can't touch that money before 59 and a half without penalty. If you need it before then, the government charges you for early access. The growth is tied to the market performance. If you need to pull money out during a downturn, you're locking in a loss. There's no protection against that timing. There are required minimum distributions later in life. Whether or not you actually need the money or not, the government tells you you have to start withdrawing. None of this makes the 401k useless. It has its place, but it's not a warehouse. It's a box with a lock on it, and someone else partly holds the key. Here's where this plan becomes a real problem for a lot of families I talk to. They've done everything they were told. Maxed out the 401k, maybe got a match from their employer, built up a respectable balance over the years. And on paper, it looks like financial health. But then life happens. A car needs replacing, a medical bill shows up, a business opportunity appears that requires capital fast, and suddenly that healthy looking balance is functionally useless because accessing it means a penalty, a tax hit, or maybe both. So what do most people do instead? They go borrow the money. A credit card, a personal loan, a loan against that very 401k they were told to build. They have money, they just don't have access to it when it actually matters. That's the liquidity gap. And it's one of the most common patterns I see in families who are otherwise doing everything right by conventional standards. A warehouse of wealth closes that gap because the capital is built to be accessible on your timeline, not the government's, not the market's, not anyone else's. So how do you actually build a warehouse like this? This is where infinite banking concepts comes back into the picture. A properly structured, dividend-paying whole life policy through a mutually owned insurance company becomes the structure of this warehouse. The cash value inside that policy grows steadily. It's not directly tied to market swings and remains accessible through your policy loans whenever you need it. You're not asking permission. You're not penalizing for accessing your own capital. You're not waiting for an arbitrary age. I want to be clear. This is not a replacement for your 401k, and it's not about abandoning every other account you have. It's about having a foundation that those other accounts don't and can't provide. Think of it as a warehouse that everything else flows through. Money comes in, it's staged here first, and then it deploys out towards investments, purchases, or opportunities, all while it's still working for you in your warehouse. That's the order of operations. That's the foundation. And once it's in place, every other financial decision you make gets easier because you're not operating from scarcity or penalty-driven thinking anymore. If you've looked at your own 401k during this video and realized you might have a liquidity gap you didn't know about, that's worth a conversation. Head over to my website, book a free 30-minute call. We'll look at where your capital actually sits now and what a real warehouse of wealth could look like for your specific situation and your family. No pressure, no pitch, just an honest look at the numbers. The link's in the description. It takes about a minute to book. If you're not ready yet, hit subscribe. Next week, we're moving on to some of the pain points I see most often, starting with why your savings account might actually be costing you money. I'm Jared with Green Dot Wealth, and I'll see you next week.